This talk was originally prepared and presented by Matt Galloway at Ignite Tulsa on September 17th, 2009. Roses are the quintessential symbol of thoughtfulness, romance, love, and passion, right? I mean, in today's society, when a woman receives a gift of roses, she interprets them as a warm and tender romantic gesture. But in reality, if somebody gives you roses, you should be pissed off. And I'll tell you why. In a romantic relationship, a gift of roses is one of the most shallow, superficial, and emotionally vacuous gestures a man can make. Roses send the clear message, "You are so insignificant to me that I didn't bother to think, even for a moment, about what kind of flowers to give you." And this should be pretty obvious. I mean, we all know why men give roses. So don't you think that if they stopped to consider, for just a moment, what flower would most accurately convey the sentiment that they're trying to convey when they give flowers to a woman, that they could come up with something that was a little bit more appropriate than the rose? But we don't. Instead, we give the tired, overused, overrated, cliché rose. A great poet once said, "A rose by any other name would be as reprehensible." But this still begs the question, why are guys such jerks? And it's because the rose is the quintessential symbol of thoughtfulness, romance, love, and passion that we stop evaluating alternatives, even though the characteristics of the quintessential symbol no longer apply to the symbol itself. And since we equate roses with romance, we don't even realize we're being jerks. By clinging to an outdated quintessential symbol, we blind ourselves to viable alternatives. We don't even realize there are alternatives. And this is the real crime. By failing to recognize alternatives, we stifle creativity and prevent innovation. And as it turns out, this happens quite a lot, and not just with flowers. For example, consider Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Harley-Davidson is the quintessential symbol of individualism and freedom, sticking it to the man, anarchy, anti-establishmentarianism. Harley, we romanticize, is not a brand, but a lifestyle. But increasingly, Harley-Davidson is about commercialization, consumerism, material status. I mean, I'm not sure which one of these things is in more direct opposition to the popular Harley ethos. Is it the Barbie doll with a matching Harley-Davidson hat and jacket but no actual motorcycle, just like her real-world poser counterpart? And nothing says rebel like a $42,000 luxury pickup truck with an air-conditioned leather interior and in-dash global positioning system. But nevertheless, Harley-Davidson is the quintessential motorcycle, so alternatives are ignored and innovation grinds to a halt. Harley-Davidson has become a caricature of itself, limiting itself to only incremental innovation so as not to disrupt the Harleyness of its products. Harleyness that competitors feel compelled to emulate in hopes of being mistaken for quintessential, like these Harley compatibles. Harley has limited not only its own innovation, but the innovation of its competitors. But once upon a time, every quintessential product actually is the thing that it will come to represent. The first version of the iPhone was tremendously innovative. It was the first phone with the exact combination of feature, content, connectivity, and technology to really make the smartphone take off. But the follow-up products, the 3G and 3GS, were only incremental improvements on top of that original product. Apple is already bound to the construct of its own quintessential product. The iPhone is so quintessential, in fact, that it's already bound Apple's competitors to the constructs of the Apple iPhone. Emulation replaces innovation, alternatives are ignored, creativity is stifled. But be mindful, one day the iPhone will suck. Not today and not tomorrow, but one day. This is an inevitable truth. And on that day, the question is, will you be a leader or a lemming? So my challenge to you is this. When faced with the status quo, continue to ask yourself the question, do the characteristics of the quintessential still hold? And if the answer is no, be prepared to reject the status quo. Recognize this as the opportunity for discontinuous innovation. Whether it's dealing with alternative energy, educating your children, buying a new car, healthcare, or switching operating systems. Be prepared to reject the status quo and consider alternatives. And if someone gives you roses, be pissed off. And not just because they came from an emotionally vacuous jerk, but because in doing so will ultimately lead to getting better flowers in the future. Thank you.